You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we're receiving secret transmissions for this week's Fab Fact.
Some old enemies are being annoyingly vague in the randomizer.
and we continue our chat with Captain Thrice and Sproggle
All of that and more is coming up in Pod 97.
of the good old Gerry Anderson podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
It's the Gerry Anderson lockdown. Yes.
That doesn't make it very evergreen. If somebody's listening to this in several years' time, they'll wonder what you're on about.
I know. Won't that be weird? And all this will seem so long ago, won't it?
And so strange and
So strange.
like an alien time. Anyway, it is an alien time right here at the Gerry Anderson Podcast with you, Officer Orrin,
And
also
you,
known as...
Gerry's son.
Well, okay, fine. You're actually Richard James.
Yeah, and you're actually Jamie Anderson, of course. Yes, and here we are for the next, hour and a half. I don't know. How long's a piece of string?
Twice half its length.
Yes, well, that's about the same length as the Gerry Anderson podcast. We've got Chris Dale's amazing randomizer coming up a little later on. We've got some news from the Gerry Anderson universe because even at this moment in time when the world seems to have stopped, there's still stuff happening in the Gerry Anderson universe, which is amazing. We've got Fab Facts coming up a bit later, of course. Oh, and Jamie, you've got the second part of a rather nice interview, haven't you?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Rather marvellous, very lovely David Holt.
Yes.
Who was the voice, as you said in the intro, I suppose, of Captain Thrice and Sproggle in Lavender Castle, but has also done all sorts of other voice artistry, including, do you remember Okie Doke, that stop-motion series
No,
of the
I don't.
late
after my
90s,
time,
early
I
2000s? Probably,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
And I
wasn't-
wonder if your kids had watched it.
No, I
but,
don't remember that. Okie doke.
Yeah, had a lovely opening theme song.
Sing it.
No, I can't remember the words,
Oh.
unfortunately. But something about him lending a helping hand.
Oh, that's nice.
Something. If you're in the Dell, just ring the bell. He'll understand, or something. Anyway,
Yeah, you're
all
listening to the Okie Doke
woodlandy.
podcast.
There is no such thing, and
Yeah.
maybe there is.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, lovely David, part 2 this week, and then I think we're on to Paul Franklin from DNEG, Double Negative, the
Yeah.
visual effects company,
Oh,
next week, and they
interesting.
have got some fascinating chat with him. And as I said to you, I've just come off a very long interview with David Tremont from
Yep.
Weta.
Yep.
And I've also chatted recently to Chris Bowden, who is a producer on Lavender Castle and a new dad for a long time. And so all these things are in the can, all
Great.
these bits and pieces.
Yeah,
so
it's good. Well done.
many more features to look forward to.
Otherwise, it would just be you and me, and no one wants that, do they?
Not really, no. Okay. Well, let's get away from it just being you and me
Oh, yes.
and introduce a special book.
Oh, not that one over there behind you.
Yeah, it's the Book of Fab Facts.
Hooray.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Go on, then.
Could you try a little bit harder to be
go on, then.
enthusiastic?
All right, what have you got for us this week, Jamie?
God, look at your acting there. Amazing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I've
Award-winning.
got a Book of Fab Facts. Not yet award-winning, but as a segment, I think it could be.
Okay.
I've got a Book of Fab Facts. You're going to shout Fab at a random point as I'm flicking through, and I can stop on that page and give you a Fab Fact.
Great.
Are you ready?
Born ready.
Then here we go.
Fab!
1967.
Oh, yes. 1967.
A fine year. What show was out in 1967?
Well, Thunderbirds had come and
Richard?
gone, hadn't it?
Yeah, so what came after that?
Are we talking Captain Scarlet?
You're absolutely talking Captain Scarlet.
Yeah.
Well, I'm about to be talking Captain Scarlet,
Oh, right.
yes.
I shall be listening, Captain Scarlet.
Yeah. So, the premiere, the anniversary of Captain Scarlet's first broadcast, as obviously you know, Richard, was September 29th, 1967.
Oh, right, yes, obviously I knew that.
Yeah. But it actually wasn't first broadcast then.
Eh?
It was first broadcast before then
Right.
as a secret transmission, not organised by the Mysterons,
Yeah.
but instead by an engineer in the ATV London area.
Really? A
Yes.
secret transmission, not an accidental transmission.
It was an unscheduled engineer's test just in that one area, ATV London, and it was broadcast on Saturday the 29th of April 1967.
Wow, that's a good few months.
5 months before the actual screening.
Ah.
So it's after all the scheduled programmes had ended and the channel closed down for the night. They did this transmission just as a test.
Oh, so it went public?
Well, but after close down, so they thought it was safe because people don't watch things after the channel. They're not just going to stare at an empty set, are they?
No.
Well, one viewer did. And his name was Milton Finesilver.
Milton Finesilver? Sounds like a Victorian actor to me.
Absolutely, yes, maybe he was.
Oh.
But no, Milton Finesilver saw this secret transmission. We don't know if there were any others who watched it. It must have been a couple of people around the country.
But how do you know about Milton?
Well, we know about Milton because, by a rather strange twist of fate, a little bit like Scarlet and the Mistrons and that encounter, dear old Milton had a job interview at Century 21 Publications shortly after.
Oh, okay.
So while he was at that interview, he was able to disclose details of Century 21's top secret new series that only very few of the higher-ups at Century 21 Publications had even heard of yet.
Wow. Well, he was making himself a bit of a marked man, wasn't he?
Yes, absolutely. Now, we don't know what happened to Milton Finesilver.
I'm assuming they gave him the job pretty sharpish just to shut him up.
Well, or did they dispose of him? A la Mistrons? I don't know. Anyway, perhaps we'll never know if you're related to Milton, or perhaps if you are Milton.
Yeah.
Do let us know, what happened. Did you end up working for Century 21? Did you, have to sign the official Century 21 Secrets Act?
Yes.
I don't know. But there was an opportunity there, 5 months ahead, to have seen the brand new show that nobody else would have known about.
Well, that's amazing. That does remind me of the story that Charlotte, my wife, told in her interview for our podcast about the an episode of Space Precinct being accidentally, pirated, actually, not accidentally, but pirated onto VHS and sold at Brixton Market before transmission. Slightly different circumstances, but...
slightly different.
Yeah.
But the person responsible was caught there, weren't they?
Yes, I think so, yes.
Because there was only a certain sequence of people who'd had it, and therefore it had to be him.
But Milton Finesilver, I mean... This was obviously in the day then before there was this crazy sort of security and paranoia about spoilers and things getting out when they shouldn't, leaking from studios and so on.
Yeah.
Imagine just broadcasting it. I know it was the middle of the night and after close down, but you wouldn't consider doing that. Not that there is a close down now, of course, but
no.
People are really possessive of their programmes these days. That would never happen.
Yeah. The only way they get it is by, leaving a laptop in the loos at the BBC, or leaving a hard drive on a train, or accidentally emailing a script or a link to a screener. It does happen.
Yeah, it does happen. That's true, yes. Yeah. Oh, I'd love to hear from Milton. If Milton Finesilver's out there, please drop us a line at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk and tell us if you remember anything about that and whether you got the job.
Yeah, surely with a name like that, we must be able to track him down. Yeah. So, Podsterons assemble.
Yes.
See if you can find Silver, but not in a creepy stalkerish way.
No, quite right too. Leave that to us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess that brings us to the end of this week's
Fine Fact. Nice. I love the way that his name is now passed into Gerry Anderson lore. That's great, isn't it?
I sort of want to name a character in something
that's exactly
coming
what
up.
I was thinking, Jamie.
I think
a bit of a race between you and I to see which story he pops up in first. One of mine and one of yours.
I was going to say, I know you're writing a thing at the moment, which we might just vaguely hint at in the Gerry Anderson news.
Okay.
Do you think is there any way to squeeze him in there?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll have a think about that.
We'll come to that in due course. But in the meantime, have you been receiving any transmissions from Podsterons?
Of course I have. Many of you out there have been emailing us in podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. You've also been visiting us, or rather leaving us messages on Twitter and #GerryAndersonPodcast. I've got some special ones coming up a little later, Jamie, because we haven't mentioned, of course, that this week just gone marked what would have been 91 years. Gerry Anderson's 91st birthday. So to celebrate, I know you took to Twitter and asked everyone from previous guests of the podcast to fans to anyone who had any sort of influence from Gerry to tweet a nice message to celebrate his legacy and hashtag it Cheers Gerry Anderson. So I shall be reading out some of those a little later. And of course, people have also been heading on over to facebook.com/groups/podsterons to join in the fun over there. And I shall be reading some of those later. But firstly, we have had this email. Now, I'm not entirely sure who this is from because they didn't leave a proper name, but in the email address, Queen Hydra 88, you'll know who you are.
It's Terry. I think his name's Terry.
Thank you, Terry. Well, he got in touch to say, now, Jamie, you mentioned the NHS and other agencies last time who are helping in this strange new world of ours to keep people safe, but you didn't mention the main rescue units like the RNLI. Cave Rescue, Mountain Rescue, Fell Beach and Global units that are ready to fly out at a second's notice around the world. Specialised voluntary units that cover all of the major rescues like the recent Australian fires and earthquakes, and they also serve that stand by and drop everything, risking their lives so others can live. Oh, and also, he says, a thought has just occurred to me. How about some Shadow International Rescue cycle helmets to keep us all safe and well? Yeah, that's from Terry. Nice little merch idea.
With an interesting shape, like the International Rescue.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, that could work.
I'm not sure how good they'd be. They're probably a bit dangerous. But
anyway, something worth
looking into.
Yeah. And also, if we have time for this, we also had an audio message because we do love people to send in their audio files so we can hear you as well as you can hear us. And we got this one from Cameron Stewart.
Hello, Jamie and Richard. My name's Cameron Stewart. I've been a lifelong fan of Super Mario Nation shows, and I'm a huge fan of both Thunderbirds and Supercar. I wanted to actually say thank you to Jamie because he very kindly name-dropped my website, the Thunderbirds Continuous Timeline, and it's a website that was set up to chronologically place every single spin-off Thunderbird story, spin-off media Thunderbird story, so books, comics, short stories, everything. And Jamie very kindly name-dropped it in Pod 4, so I'm aware that this is a very late thank you. But obviously with the recent pandemic, I've had the opportunity to actually record this and say thank you. In the context, you were asked about whether there were any prequel stories to Thunderbirds, and you very rightly mentioned the one written by Alan Fennell in the Fleetway comics back in the 90s, and that's obviously being turned beautifully into a animation now on your YouTube channel. I thought I would also just take the opportunity to mention the other prequel Thunderbird story, which is a novel written by Joanne Marie Verber, and it's quite an interesting story because when you start to read it, she's using the same established continuity and backstory that was set up through the annuals back in the 60s, and it's the same continuity that Alan Fennell used for his comics, so you're effectively getting the same story. It's the small details which are the same, such as Carano rescuing Jeff and things like Gordon's hydrofoil accident. But it's the bigger detail that is the difference. So you do effectively get the same story. So once again, thank you very much to Jamie for mentioning my website. If you have any questions regarding the continuity of the expanded universe of Thunderbirds, please do get in touch, because honestly I know far too much, and there are far too many Thunderbird stories featuring volcanoes. Just I can't even tell you how many there are. So yes, feel free to get in touch, ask me any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron.
Ooh.
There you go. Thanking us for something that you mentioned, Jamie, in Pod 4.
Yes, some time ago.
Yes, nice of him to finally get round to it. So, listeners, if you have anything that you want to thank us for that happened about a year and a half ago, do drop us a line.
Or longer.
Yes, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. And Cameron also mentioned the Thunderbirds prequels, the new series, Thunderbird Legends, I think. It's going up on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel. And happened to mention as well there are various other books and comics and so on detailing the prequel events to Thunderbirds, possibly. So which Gerry Anderson series do you think needs a prequel, Jamie, other than Thunderbirds? What would you like to see?
Or Space Precinct, Richard, I think.
You think?
I'd love that, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting thought. Yeah.
You?
I reckon I'd like to see the building of the moon base, Moon Base Alpha.
You go for Space 1999,
Yeah.
of course.
Wouldn't
I
that be
thought you
great?
might do.
Because I reckon they might have found something while they were building it.
Oh,
And I think
really?
that would make an interesting story.
I see.
Starring Milton Finesilver. Of course.
And Richard James as Barbara Bain?
I can see that working. And finally, now this email wasn't from the podcast, but it's something that Jamie, you forwarded on to me, and I did want to read this out. It was from Brian, I think, who says, I haven't been working the last couple of weeks as I've been in a 14-day quarantine lockdown with the common flu bug, which means I haven't been paid due to being a casual at my place of work. And I know this has affected so many people in a similar way. But Brian says the only thing that's been making it worthwhile has been listening to yours and Richard's podcast, as I'm now up to date with all of them and looking forward to hearing the next one coming out this Tuesday when I download it from iTunes. And that's from Brian, so that's nice, isn't it?
Cheers, Brian.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you're doing all right.
Yes.
And thanks for saying such a nice thing.
Yeah.
And we hope we continue to entertain you and, help you keep your chin up and all
Yeah,
that.
that's right, exactly. That's why we're here. Now, before we head on over to the news, I think I should just say, Jamie, it's of the utmost importance to our listeners at home. Please head on over to whichever platform you're listening to us on, subscribe to the Gerry Anderson podcast, or follow us so that you get notifications every time a new episode drops. Please leave us a rating as well. That's a cross between a review and a rating, of course. You can leave us some stars, you can leave us some nice words, and then, crucially, share us with your friends so they can get to hear us too.
Because we're finding new listeners every week.
Gosh, aren't we just?
If you've just joined us for Pod 97, then welcome along.
Yes, exactly.
You've
Make
got
yourself at home.
96 others you can go and listen to if you like the sound of this one.
Yeah.
If you don't, then it was nice meeting you very briefly.
Let's face it, you've probably not got an awful lot else to do, so you might as well.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening anyway.
Yeah.
Whether you're a new listener or a long time one.
Yeah.
Should we go to some Gerry Anderson news?
If there is any.
There's a bit.
Okay.
Let's have some Gerry Anderson news. It's the
News.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard.
Right,
It
get
is
in
the
there.
Gerry Anderson news.
News. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get another sad bit out the way first, shall we?
Ah, yes.
Now, we heard a couple of weeks ago Graydon Gould passed away, a name which might not necessarily mean a lot to many of you, but if you watch Supercar, he was the voice of Mike Mercury.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, an amazing voice. And how old do you think Graydon was when he played Mike Mercury? Not thinking about timeline stuff, but just listening to Mike's voice.
I mean, I would assume early 30s, early to mid 30s.
Yeah, I would thought so, because he had a certain kind of power
Yes.
and confidence that feels like it maybe came with
age and
a long
experience.
career. And,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, he was 23.
He was 23.
23
Wow.
when he started voicing Mike. What an amazing,
Gosh. Yeah.
heroic role to go into. I mean, he obviously would have been working for a little bit before that.
Yeah.
But
Lovely.
that's pretty cool, isn't it? So yes, unfortunately, Graydon passed away on the 25th of February. It's amazing how sometimes this news just takes a while to filter through. But he was also in The Forest Rangers and Mission Impossible,
Okay.
the 1996 version of Mission Impossible,
Ooh,
which I didn't
great.
realise.
Yeah.
So there you go. He did some other guest voices in Supercar too. But I don't think he went on to do any other voicing in any other Anderson show, which I
Right.
find rather strange.
Yeah.
So Podstrons, if I'm wrong there, or you know why I'm right,
Yeah.
then do email in podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk and let us know.
Yeah, we do love to pay tribute to those that leave us connected with the Gerry Anderson world, but we can't always catch everybody, can we? So if you know of someone who has left us in the last few weeks or months, do let us know, because we'd love to pay tribute to them on the podcast, because, well, we're here because of them, really, and all their collective efforts, aren't we? Behind the camera, in front of the camera, voice work, all sorts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the ways we pay tribute is via a series on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel,
Oh, yes.
Primers.
Yep.
And the Primer series is pretty much complete now, because recently we've put up the Doppelganger and New Captain Scarlet Primers.
Yes, they're great.
The New Captain Scarlet Primer is an epic at about 16 minutes long. And Chris Randomizer Dale has delved into the history of the show's broadcast and distribution and all sorts of stuff which you may not have been aware of as a viewer. And in fact, I've seen loads of comments of people saying, "Oh, when is this new show on?"
Ah,
I have to say,
Yeah.
well, it's 15 years old,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can
But you
see
can get it
2
here.
free episodes on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel, or go and buy the Blu-ray.
yeah.
Yeah, so those are rather lovely, and the Captain Scarlet one I thought was particularly great. They're all great, and Chris has done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
So very small round of applause, only because of the volume on the podcast
Yeah.
for Chris. Well done, Chris. Thank you so much. Brilliant.
Can I mention the thing that surprised me most in the new Captain Scarlet primer, and I think surprised a lot of people?
If you must.
It's the footage that was the test footage that was shot with Francis Matthews and Ed Bishop as Captain Scarlet and Captain Blue. In an idea was to make it a continuation rather than a reboot.
Potentially, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And to see them in the sound booth together was quite sweet, I thought.
It was sweet, but amazing voices, but didn't they sound old?
Yeah.
And that's not me being unpleasant or anything. Their voices no longer matched the youthful characters.
Yeah, that's right.
And I've said it before. There's that very bit at the very end, which is really sweet, where Frankie Matthews says something like, "And this is only the beginning."
Yeah.
S-I-G.
Yeah.
And he just sounds like he's out of puff. He can't do this anymore.
That's right.
That was never going to be right for Scarlett. And also, I have a feeling that maybe Ed passed away pre or during production of New Scarlet.
Yeah.
I may have my times wrong then. So, something that was never meant to be, but something really lovely that does exist.
Yeah.
So,
would have been nice to have got him in for a cameo, wouldn't it, of some sort?
Oh, absolutely,
That's what you do these days, I think, wouldn't it be?
I was kind of surprised they didn't get Liz Morgan in for a cameo or something. Mm-hmm. So, probably budgetary and schedule constraints. There's always things like that. Yeah. Anyway, look, there's more free stuff on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel, including Space Precinct.
Hooray!
The Fire Within.
Yes.
We had part 1 out previously. Part 2 is out now.
Yep.
And again is introducing new people to old shows. Mm-hmm. And I believe you had some involvement with Space Precinct, Richard.
I'm sure it's part of my long and illustrious career. Yes, actually, Jamie, I do have a bit of a confession.
Oh, go on, confess away.
I've been moonlighting.
Have you?
I'm afraid I jumped ship this week and made a guest appearance on the Benji and Nick Show podcast.
How very dare you? Why did you do that?
Well, that's why I'm telling you now, because I didn't want you to find out by accident. Okay?
Right.
It's just a one-off. It won't happen again. It's me. It's not you.
See.
All right? I just want you to know.
And how were they? How do they compare
they were very
to
good. So they have been watching the both parts of The Fire Within, and I know you were on the first week talking to them about it, and they invited me along to watch the second part with them and give them the benefit of my wisdom. Yeah. Do you know what? It was quite pleasing. They both really rather liked it. I think
there you go.
Nick certainly remembered watching it back in the day and was rather dismissive of it at the time.
Yes.
I suspect he might have caught one of the earlier episodes, which, let's face it, weren't the best. But although he had his criticisms, of course, I think he rather enjoyed The Fire Within, as well he should. Yeah.
Yes, he sent me a text actually saying, really rather good, or something like that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
There you go. A Space Precinct convert. So thank you so much for doing your bit.
Well, that's quite all right. Who do I invoice for that?
Well, I was going to say, it turns out your bit is quite extensive.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and you are doing something Space Precinct-y right now, aren't you?
Should we talk about that now, do you think? Or
not too much, but just say that you are doing a thing.
Yes.
With some words.
Yeah, let's just say, what if I were to go back to where it all started?
Yeah.
Hey? We'll leave it there.
Interesting. Well, we'll have to wait and see what that means.
Yes, you will.
In a future podcast.
Yes, maybe we'll time it for the 100th and it'll be a special announcement.
Yeah, that might be great. Okay, fine. Let's aim for that.
All right.
But for now, unless you've got anything else you'd like to insert...
I don't think so, Jamie, no.
No? Okay. Then this is the end now of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news! That was the news! Yeah, I got
no
through
squeak this week.
Yeah,
although it did turn out to be one of the Podstrons' favourite renditions back in Pod 96.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? Now look, we have had another email, Jamie.
Another one?
Yeah, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. Before I head on over to Twitter, this was an email that begins like this. Jamie.
Give me your answer, dude.
Well, it sounds like you're in trouble. I was shocked.
Shocked?
No
shocked.
less. Yeah, shocked. Dear. This is from Ed Dutra, I think, Dutra. Ed says, I was shocked that in Pod 96, neither you nor Richard, hi Richard, hi Ed, suggested the most correct solution to Alan's T-shirt storage dilemma. Do you remember this last time?
I do, because I suggested all in A and then chronologically, right?
Well, you're wrong.
Oh.
Ed says this. Obviously, I mean, when you think about it, it is obvious. Obviously, the answer is to purchase extra shirts so that he has at least one of them hanging in every category. Problem solved. You see? You're right. Ed continues, I'm a big Space 1999 fan with an extensive Eagle fleet consisting of more die-cast Eagles than were ever destroyed during the course of the series. And he attached some photos as well. Yeah, brilliant photographs. He's got a lovely picture of a moon on his wall, beneath which he's got a display case that's just stuffed with Eagles. Oh, and a drawing as well that won Best in Class award at the Alameda Fair, I think. So well done, Ed. He says, I love the podcast. It's always nice to hear a bit of fun each Monday to get the week rolling. Stay safe. Regards, Ed Duttera.
Well, we do our best.
We do indeed.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
Now, Ed, I have a question. How do you organise your Eagles?
Oh.
Do you do them alphabetically by manufacturer, chronologically by year of release?
Oh, Jamie.
Or do you organise them by the order in which they were destroyed in Space 1999 itself?
No. That's opened a whole can of worms that we really don't want to get into. I'm going to head on over to Twitter now, Jamie, because last week, as we know, saw what would have been the 91st birthday of Gerry Anderson, and people took to Twitter in their droves.
We were trending, weren't we? Hashtag Cheers Gerry Anderson.
Absolutely. So we had some past guests who paid tributes, including, here's a non-exhaustive list of past podcast guests who hashtagged Cheers Gerry Anderson on Twitter. We had Phil Plate, Mark Silk, Gary Newman, Sophie Aldred, Sophia Miles, Pat Sharp, Chris Packham, Samira Ahmed, Gavin Robertson, Forces TV, Maurice Bright, Benji Clifford, Nicholas Brigster, Mags, Sean Feast, Andrew James Spooner, Lee Sullivan, to name but a few.
Bless them all.
Took to Twitter. Also with a handy link to each of the podcasts that they appeared in, so you can listen to those as well. And also, here are some others that I picked up as well. Sean Flynn. First, I saw Joe 90, which I loved, then Captain Scarlet, which seemed the most exciting show on TV, then UFO, which was the most exciting show on TV, and then The Protectors, which I didn't know was him, but was the most exciting show on TV with car chases. Nice. Dixie D. I was an avid fan right from Torchy the Battery Boy. Well, I was only 2 years old at the time. Those shows formed my childhood, and I was awed to have the chance to meet Gerry and Sylvia and many others of the production teams in later years. Charlie Ross tweeted, for me it was the joy of Saturday mornings. Already happy because, well, no school for 2 days, but ITV used to put Gerry Anderson shows on. It just felt blissful. Loved them all, but a great deal of affection for Space 1999. Jojo tweeted, grew up watching Thunderbirds and Space Precinct. The former made me want to be a pilot, but I was told I was too short. I ended up working for the NHS in a profession helping people, perhaps the closest I'll ever get to being international rescue. And finally, this rather nice story from David C. Hill. I phoned, he tweeted, Anderson Entertainment in 2005 for review copies of the new Captain Scarlet. The man I spoke to was very helpful, and when I asked for his name, he replied, Gerry Anderson. I was such a fan of his work that it blew me away. He was so kind and humble, and they were all hashtag Cheers Gerry Anderson. Rather nice.
Lovely.
Yeah.
It was really, really nice. And I mean, whenever we do anything like that, I think, it would be nice if we get, a few responses.
Yeah.
And, people just share some memories, and I'm always overwhelmed by it.
Yes.
My Facebook page in particular, just so many responses there. I haven't even managed to read them all yet, which is just really, really lovely. So clearly, the power of Gerry Anderson is as strong as ever.
Absolutely. Certainly not diminished in any way, shape or form. Yeah.
By this podcast.
Yeah.
No.
Sure about that?
It's just another way we celebrate it.
Indeed, yes.
Really nice. Richard, have you got any more messages, or would you like to hand over to David Holt?
Oh, I'd love to hear the second part of your interview with David Holt.
Great. I'm sure David Holt would love to, give us the second half of his interview.
Go on then.
Should we just let him do it?
Yes.
I'll stop stumbling over it. And here's David Holt with some stuff about Lavender Castle and other things. Here he is. Now?
Now!
Okay, now. And then, somehow, you were hooked up with some bald bloke called Gerry Anderson for a weird little stop-motion fantasy preschool series. How the hell did that happen?
Okay, well, I need to backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
So when I was at drama school, before I left and went to London, I wrote to Mark Hall at Cosgrove Hall Films, the legendary Cosgrove Hall.
Yeah.
I sent him my demo tape of Voices, and I don't know how or why, he wrote back to me. I mean, those days you had to write, and you sent cassettes. And there was obviously something he heard or liked about what my silly voice stuff on this cassette. So he said, well, whenever you're next in Manchester, just let me know and come in and record a few bits and pieces for us. So I made damn sure I was in Manchester within about a month. Yeah. I just booked a ticket, and I told him I was coming, some pretense. but really
Yeah.
I wanted to go and meet him and show off. So I did, and he said, went to a studio. He booked a studio. He booked it for a couple of hours. Let me come in. He gave me some various scripts of all sorts of different things, and I had to go loads of stuff. And he, really, obviously, really liked what I did, and we got on very well. Anyway, there was nothing on the cards at that point, so I thought, well, whatever happens, I've done a good audition. Anyway, time went by. I'd been on the radio. I'd been doing lots of work as a voice artist. I'd also started to do animation after I left the BBC, including for Mark and Brian at Cosgrove Hall. And the first thing I did for them was an animated series called Okie Doke, and that was about 1994. So that started my association with Cosgrove Hall. I'm getting to your father, don't worry.
Yeah, no, I can see the path. I can see the path.
So I then worked on other series that Cosgrove Hall were producing, because by the most incredible luck, they took me under their wing, really. And I've Mark Hall to thank for everything, in a way, as well as my friend Ian Skelly. Mark really, really pushed me forward and got me into loads of productions that they were doing. And that's how I got to meet Chris Bowden when he joined Cosgrove Hall. And I don't think Lavender Castle was the first thing I worked on with Chris. But there came a point when Chris told me about this new project with your father, Lavender Castle. And he said, it'd be great to have you on the voice cast. And he said, I've got everyone else in mind, but obviously we've got to clear it with Gerry. So I think I can't remember the exact sequence, but I had to do some auditions, tests, really, and, play around with voices for the different characters. But in the end, it all fell into place. And eventually I got to meet your father, and on the first day of recording, and it was really incredibly exciting for me. I can't tell you. It felt like a lifetime achievement in a way. If that makes sense, from that little snotty boy weeing on the carpet in front of Thunderbird, I was there in a studio with the man who created it, doing voices for his next show. How amazing was that? It was life changing, and it was one of the highlights of my life.
It's a great path. So, in terms of coming up with the voices, was that a case of you going in and making suggestions yourself? Were you given a lot of guidance? Were you working with Dad on that? Was that and was it voice directors? I can't remember on Lavender Castle.
Well, it was your father and Chris Bowden did the voice directing. Oh, and Chris Taylor, who was the director. Yep. Yeah, between the three of them, I think. Actually, principally, it was Chris Taylor and your father who did the most of the voice directing.
Yeah,
but all three had an input. In terms of coming up with the voices, we were only a small cast. There were only four of us who did all the voices for all the characters. For somehow, or somebody suggested, maybe it was me, I can't remember, that perhaps Captain Thrice was a figure of authority, and I just said, well, what about the voice of Captain Mannering in Dad's Army, or along those lines? He was, Captain Mannering was he was slightly beneath his station in a way, wasn't he? He thought he was in charge, but really other people were much more competent than him. But I liked the tone of voice, and it seemed to suit the figure of the character as well, because he was quite squat, wasn't he? Round little chap. And so I thought that, rather officious voice. Come on, now it's time we did something here. What's happening? In a way, it seemed to suit him.
Were you seeing just the concept art, or were you seeing the actual miniatures at this point?
Good question. I think to begin with, it was just the character designs.
Yeah.
I think we did see some puppets at some point during the recordings, but not straight away, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
I think that came a bit later on. Because we did some recording. I think the initial recordings were done in London, but also we did some up in Manchester as well.
Yeah. Okay. And so, what other characters did you play in that
Well,
show,
Jamie,
David?
you're going to help me here because I know I did Sproggle.
Yeah, you definitely did Sproggle.
Yeah.
Well, Sproggle is on the opposite end of the voice spectrum.
Yes,
So
exactly.
what was that? So you want a ditzy rubbish navigator, like a giant child. I mean, was that the sort of brief you were given?
Well, it was, and they said, well, yes, but he speaks his own language, so therefore, you can't use words. You've got to use sounds really, or an invented language. So I just started. It's something I dare I say have done a lot in my career is talking rubbish. Probably doing it now, but
not at all.
No, but I did have to, invent a sort of sound for him and an invented language, which was God knows how they animated it. I just don't know. It must have been awful to animate.
Well, yeah, I mean, painstaking, I think.
Painstaking as most animation is. Yeah, and he was very squeaky, I seem to remember.
He was very, very falsetto-y.
It was along those lines. I've not seen it for a long time, so I don't know.
Yeah, not something you go back and watch regularly. I mean, he did end up speaking a normal English language, but I think he was supposed to be a non-dialogue character at some point, which seems crazy. But it was lovely, a great sort of comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other nice thing was that I was working with people who I already knew. So Jimmy Hibbert, Rob Rackstraw, and Kate Harbour, with whom I worked with all of them. And so it was nice to be in good company. And between us, we knew we could actually cover a lot of different characters.
Yeah, because you also did Tin Lizzie.
Did I?
And Colonel Clump.
Oh, gosh, yes. The names ring a bell, but I can't bring their voices to mind.
Yeah, no. I mean, these are guest characters, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, and a few others here and there. But I mean, but I think Thrice and Sproggle show a great deal of breadth to your voices and ability.
Yeah.
And was it a fun show to record? I mean, you obviously do it with people you already know, which is really nice.
Yeah.
But was it a good atmosphere in the booth for that sort of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yes. In all honesty and in all fairness, I think to begin with, I certainly, and maybe one or two of my fellow cast, were a little bit in awe of your father, and we were a little bit on best behaviour, if you know what I mean. Whereas, those other three people I mentioned, Jimmy Hibbert, Rob Rackstraw, and Kate Harbour, and I, we do have a wacky sort of sense of humour and love a laugh and love a sort of, being a bit rude at times and being silly. And, we didn't quite feel to begin with that we were really quite had the license to lark about in the studio as much as we wanted to, because your father was sitting there wanting results. And, he still is this great figure in the film and television industry in our country. And I suppose we wanted to get on with it and to show that we could do it really well. But I didn't feel we could quite just let off steam in the way that we normally would. I think perhaps we warmed up as the series went on. But it was, I mean, I've known them of many years, those the other three, and Chris Bowden as well, of course, and Chris Taylor. So, yeah, we made it as much fun as we possibly could. And quite often, you can't get through a line or through a scene without bursting into laughter because something, just the way somebody delivers a line, or they, say something funny, or, and it was a great show to work on, and very, I don't know, sort of, we felt very privileged really to be doing it.
I'm glad it was fun and not awe-inspiring, that's the wrong word, but something to write home about.
Memorable,
perhaps.
Yeah, exactly, memorable, yeah. Well, exactly.
And then for the show itself, what your impressions of what you're doing? Because there was really nothing else like it before or since, to be honest.
No. I mean, it looked incredible. I just really looked so... Well, like, again, why wouldn't it? It's like all your father's productions. They were all unique in the way they looked. And they just... Yeah, it was outstanding in that way. And I thought... Were they 11-minute episodes? I can't remember now. Yeah, exactly. And I thought, the way they rattled along and told a story in full stop frame animation. It's a really, really difficult thing to do. I think perhaps, a sci-fi action type of fantasy production like that is hard to do with stop motion animation. But they did it, God knows how. I mean, I don't know how many people were working on it.
A relatively small crew, I seem to remember, because I went up to set a few times, and always just beautiful. But compared to other productions, to me, it was almost like nothing was happening.
Yes,
you go there, and the pace of production and the method kind of lent, I thought, a lovely quality to the show itself, which worked for that preschool phase type of show, and also worked for the fantastical world it was set in. So it didn't need that kind of crash bash pace, but they still had it when they needed it.
When they needed it, yes, exactly. Yeah. I thought it, is full of layers and very rich, really, visually very rich. And hope, with our performances, we brought something to it that, any film or TV production is a combination of a lot of different people and their different skills, putting it all together, isn't it? And it can work a dream or it can be a disaster. But this certainly was not, and it was for ITV, wasn't it?
It was indeed CITV, and at the time when it was broadcast, it was outrating Rugrats, which was the number one show.
Yes, yeah.
And it got a great reception, but unfortunately, as with many of these things, the distribution wasn't there. It just didn't get the exposure it needed, and it was quite short-lived, which is rather a shame, because I think it could have gone on and on. It could have been a really lovely ongoing series.
Yeah. But how many episodes did we do? I can't remember.
Only 26.
26. Yeah.
Which
was the same when I did worked on Okie Doke. That was only 26.
Was it? I felt like that went on a bit.
No, maybe it felt like it did.
I didn't mean it quite like that.
No, it was only there were only 26 episodes of Okie Doke.
Gosh, yeah. All these things that were cut short before their time. So, reflecting back on Lavender Castle, are you collared by Lavender Castle fans now, or has it just disappeared into the distant past of your career?
Yeah, unfortunately for me, I don't get requests for autographs or photographs or anything, but because through Lavender Castle, it's a shame, really. And I know there are lots of conventions, Comic-Con and these things where the fantasy type productions are very popular, and people who have worked for your father, are often at these conventions. I've never been asked, but I'm not. I did, no, never. But that's just how it is.
We'll have to do something about that.
Well, I'd love to, but one nice thing that did happen was when I was on tour in a stage play, 15 years ago. I was at one of our dates was at the Theatre Royal in Windsor. And I came out after a performance one evening, and there were two guys there. And these were guys in their 30s, maybe about 40. And they waited for me to come out. I think they'd seen the show, but they specially waited at the stage door for me because they said, we are huge fans of Gerry Anderson and his work. And they had this enormous, big, I can't describe it, large sort of board which they carried with them, which had autographs from so many people who'd worked with your father, actors who'd worked with your father, and pictures of the various shows that they'd done and what have you, all on this big board or huge piece of paper or whatever. So they waited for me to get my autograph and took a photograph and that sort of thing. And I was really, really flattered and delighted, really. So that is the one occasion where I was most definitely tracked down, thanks to working with your father.
Amazing. Oh, well, I'm glad you were stalked at least once.
Once, yeah, just once.
And I'm sure there will be more of those to come.
Yeah, good.
So from sitting down on that wet carpet as a youngster, watching Thunderbirds, to actually being involved very directly with the Gerry Anderson show, are there any qualities that you can draw out from those very different experiences that make an Anderson show an Anderson show?
Yeah, definitely. I think I thought about this, and I think for me, they were so cinematic, and that's what appealed to me. They had such high production values. The quality was there, even as a little boy, I could tell they just head and shoulders above anything else I was watching on television, just basically in terms of how they looked. And of course, I realize now that they were shot on 35mm film with big, cinema spec film cameras, full lighting, they were treated as a top end cinematic type production. And all that went into it. The fact that they were short, episodes of 50 minutes long, whatever they were, didn't matter. They had everything that a film had. They were dramatic. They were colourful. They had great machines, which was a big thing for me, big tick for me.
Yeah.
Great characters as well, very clearly defined characters, each very different and identifiable. And they were, everything, the voices, the look of them, the colour, the invention, the sheer creativity, and not to mention, not to forget the incredible music that was used in them as well. There are so many layers in these productions, and that's what made them stand out to me way back then in the 1960s and early 70s. But what gives them this great longevity and why we're still talking about them now here in the 2020, we're still talking about them.
An amazing summary. Thank you very much, David. That's great. Well, I mean, it's true though, and your sentiments are shared by many people who try to kind of reflect on the Anderson shows. There's no one thing, but it's the scale and the ambition of it so often, and particularly in the visuals that keep it so timeless.
And I was watching a little bit on YouTube about the making of, which I'd never seen. I never knew these things existed. And there are one or two nice, little behind the scenes sort of clips of the making of Thunderbird and what have you. And that was, I've just recently discovered these. And there was one where they were describing how for certain sort of special effects scenes, they would run the camera at sometimes 72 frames a second, 94
120,
to get the look of it, when you actually see it at the right speed, it looks, amazing. Truly as if you are there, as if that is a massive machine flying up above you, landing in front of you. So, there's some interesting stuff out there. I can't find anything of the voice actors being recorded in the studios.
You're right. There's very little stuff around with that. There's a few stills, but it's rather a shame actually. There's not much from those days.
And I remember meeting in my days in Birmingham a guy called John Taylor.
John and Jean.
Who I did some little voiceover jobs at his studio, and we got chatting, and he said that he'd recorded a lot of those voice sessions for your father's shows, Thunderbird and the others, and also
sound effects and the Foley.
Sound effects and Foley, and he'd use the red arrows, apparently. The jet noises.
I mean, incredible, clever stuff they used across it. In fact, if you go and look up, I think on YouTube, there's a great British Pathé news clip of John and Jean making stingray sounds.
Okay, right.
So that's great. That's great. And so prim and proper. Okay, Jean, recording now. It's just brilliant. So go and enjoy that.
Turn over.
Yeah, exactly. It's so
Speed.
60s. It's great.
Action.
And then it's John or Jean shaking a tray of bolts or something for just brilliant stuff.
It works.
Yeah, and it still does now. David, what have you been up to recently that people might hear your voice in, that you're allowed to talk about? And where can people find you online to keep up with your day-to-day work? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. The most recent stuff I've been doing, or that you'd see around and about, I bear in mind I've been at this job for a long, long time. So I've worked on 95 animated TV series. Is that all?
And to date, and 100 or more than 100 films, and other animated. That's just animation. So there's a lot of me out there on a lot of stuff. But currently, or more recently, I would say, there's a great BAFTA-winning preschool series for CBeebies, the BBC children's service called Number Blocks, and it's all about teaching maths to children. It's brilliant, and it's coming
Fantastic
back
show.
to another go. It's brilliant. Won a BAFTA. Also, award-winning. I'm in the most recent film which came out of Aardman Studios in Bristol, and that was the Shaun the Sheep feature film called Shaun the Sheep Farmageddon.
Amazing.
Which is absolutely a stunning piece of work, and I am a non-speaking robot in that.
Amazing.
He's called Muggins, and harking back to other things, he makes noises but has of course no words. Shaun the Sheep is a wordless production, but he's a definite character, and it's a noticeable and very funny and lovely little part in what's a brilliant film. So I'm very proud of that moment. That came out in 2019. And it's still around. So
fantastic.
Future work is I've been working on 2 different series for a company in Germany. I'm always doing radio dramas, audio dramas for Audible, for example. Most recently, a Sherlock Holmes adaptation and an adaptation of the Arthurian legends called Albion. So that type of thing. And then I just I await my next great moment with bated breath. However, if you want to take a look at what I do and listen to what I do, then my website is david-holt.co.uk. david-holt.co.uk. Take a look at what I do. I'm also on Instagram, which is for a bit of fun, really. And there my profile name is David Holt Voice Actor. David Holt Voice Actor.
Perfect.
And that's me.
Okay. They're not going to find you on Twitter or Facebook or TikTok or Snapchat.
No. Funnily enough, I'm on LinkedIn. If you're a professional, contact me on LinkedIn. I find that LinkedIn and Instagram are quite enough for my poor old brain to cope with. I can't.
You're quite right. Very sensible.
To social media, it's too much.
Perfect.
But I'm there somewhere.
There you go. Right. Go and track him down, Podsterons. I'm sure David will be happy to hear from you on Instagram and via his website. And David, for now, thank you very much indeed. You've been brilliant.
Jamie, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I hope we can do so again. Thank you.
Nice.
Thanks, David Holt.
Lovely. Lovely David Holt. Great.
Yeah, with reminiscences of not just working with Dad, but beyond, and enjoying the shows. And, it's funny the way people get involved in things like this, because in this case, again, it's very much a case of who you know, really.
Yes.
He had become part of the voice artist roster for not Hall and Oates, no, for
Really?
Cosgrove Hall.
He was on Man-Eater, I think, wasn't he?
Oh dear, it's been a long morning already.
Yes.
For Cosgrove Hall, and so that he was suggested to be part of it that way.
Great. I mean, I take my hat. There's so much artistry involved in voice work, isn't there? I mean, it is one of course, we've spoken about this before. It is one of the most defining things of the Anderson shows. If you think of Thunderbirds, you're going to think of Shane Rimmer. You're going to think of David Graham as Parker, Lady Penelope. And likewise, we discussed Francis Matthews and Captain Scarlet. Those voices are crucial, aren't they?
They are. Well, it's a discussion I've had with people before where if you take any of the shows and you take the sound away, and you're left with something which is obviously visually impressive, but you're losing more than 50% of what's going on.
Yeah.
But with most of the shows, you take the picture away with the music and the sound effects and the voice work. You've still got 80-90% of the drama.
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
So it's just so crucial to get it right. And David's Captain Thrice in Lavender Castle is so lovely and sort of avuncular. Is that the word I want?
Yes, that's a nice word, yes.
Yes,
great.
it is avuncular.
Yeah,
so
we'll take that.
Thank you, David. Now, next week,
we're
talking to Paul Franklin. Paul is the creative director for DNEG, previously known as Double Negative, who do all the visual effects for lots of amazing Hollywood pictures, including things like Interstellar.
Oh, yes.
And Inception, and The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises.
All the Christopher Nolan stuff,
Yeah,
Great.
Lots of Christopher Nolan stuff. Paul was one of the founders of Double Negative, and has got some rather interesting stories.
I should say so.
Well, a very particular story about something Anderson-y.
Oh, good.
But also just an insight into the way the whole visual effects and special effects world works. He gives us a great definition for what special effects is versus visual effects, which often people confuse the two or use terms interchangeably.
Yeah.
And it's just a really, really great chat, which I'm sure you're all going to enjoy, but it takes us from behind the mic to the workings behind what you see on the finished picture at the end.
Lovely.
So, yeah.
Sounds
Look
fascinating.
forward to that. Many more interviews to come, lots pre-recorded. Thank you, Lockdown, for that opportunity to record these things.
Yes. Okay.
But that's the end of this bit.
Yeah.
Any more tweets or anything you want to read out?
Jamie. Look, I want to head on over to our Facebook page, facebook.com/groups/podstrons. It's where our delightful podstrons get together, hang out with each other, G each other up in these difficult times, post their fan art, post their videos, and just try and have a good time, really. For example, Emma Nichols says, I have a Thunderbirds marathon today, and I was wondering, did anyone else have a Gerry Anderson marathon? Yeah, do let us know. Are you using this strange time to finally make your way through that box set that's been sat on your shelf for the last couple of years? David Monday posted a video of the Tokyo Garden Orchestra performing the Zero X theme by Barry Gray, which is worth a look.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Mark Simpson Wedge posted, I saw that the hashtag #HowTwenty20CouldGetWorse was trending on Twitter. Do you think we should tell them about Zelda?
Oh, best not. We don't want to depress everyone, do we?
That's right. Jenny Davis, just rewatching some of the episodes from New Captain Scarlet, and I don't know if anyone else noticed, but this the use of CGI made the series a bit darker. It's still really good by all accounts. It's just, in some aspects of the reboot, it makes the series look more dark and edgy. Just my opinion that I've had in my mind for a while. Hope everyone's okay and keeping safe. Well, yes, I mean, Captain Scarlet is sort of generally regarded as one of the darker episodes. I think if you start on the premise of a man that can never die, no matter what happens to him, perhaps it's going to get a bit edgy, isn't it?
It might if we're going to have to explore death on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
But the CGI stuff allowed the characters to do more.
Well, yeah.
And also allowed the directors to do more in terms of what we saw.
Yes.
So it allows for spookier, darker moments
Yeah.
and more tension to be built, I think.
Yeah.
Because you were free of the restrictions of the Supermarionation characters, which is exactly what Dad was after.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now, just before we head on over to Chris Dale and his marvellous randomizer, just a quick flashback to Pod 95, when I and my incredible plot device gave you this poser for the plot of peril. Are you ready? Here comes your character. Oh, it's Thunderbird's Tintin.
Oh.
Right. Okay. A location? Yeah. Oh, it's the Big Pit Mine. That's the museum near you, isn't it, Jamie?
That is the Welsh
Wales.
Museum of Coal Mining. How strange that should come up.
Right, there you go. The Big
Big
Pit,
Pit Museum.
Museum in Wales is your location. And finally, then, your household item. Yeah. A garlic press. So there we are, 3 things to weave into a coherent Gerry Anderson-esque style story, lasting no more than 30 seconds. You can do it on audio if you want and send us the audio file, or just write it down, send it into podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, or hashtag us on Twitter with the plot of peril, or put it in the Facebook group and I'll see it there, and I shall announce a winner in Pod 100, which is only just around the corner.
It is. And I, for one, cannot wait to hear the results of their plotty artistry.
Very good. No, I'm sure not. Well, 3 more pods to go.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Now, shall we go over to Chris Randomizer General Dale?
I think we ought to.
I think he's ready, standing by with the randomizer. I have a feeling he might be coming to us from Mars, maybe today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's hand over to Chris on Mars.
Mother, we have captured the Earthlings. Bring them forward. Let me see their evil, degenerate faces.
This is all right, youngster. Don't push. We know.
Perceive the youthful, inherent ugliness of all their race. They're hideous.
Oh, steady on, sister. I mean, I know I'm no work of art, but Marina here's considered quite attractive back on Earth, you know.
Yes, I can imagine. I knew you would come.
Yes. Well, it's been a while since I've seen you. Thought I'd stop in and see how you all were. You've had this place redecorated, haven't you? Don't like it. Anyway, I thought one of you might like the chance of pressing the button on the old randomizer here.
Of what?
Of, the randomizer? We've only been doing it for like the last 100 weeks or so.
Ah, interesting. Very interesting.
Yes, but who's going to make the selection?
I will give the order. No, I will. Look at this. What is it?
It is mine.
Wait till I get my hands on you, you horror!
Zelda, are they always like this?
I'm afraid so.
Oh, condolences. Right, let's see what Itstar has selected for us today. Well, appropriately enough, it's an episode from a show about some evil aliens living on Mars.
Oh, goody, goody, goody.
Yes, but it's not you guys. We're back with the original Captain Scarlet with...
Wonderful! Oh.
Yes, but, well, I'm sure someone out there might like this one, but I have to say it's never been one of my favourites. Here's Expo 2068.
Would anyone like something to eat?
No, thank you.
Leading the fight, one man fate has made indestructible. His name, Captain Scarlet.
So, we are back with... I think I have to say my favourite Super Mario Nation series. It's always a tie between this and Joe, but I think this just has the edge. Unfortunately, this is not one of my favourites. And I feel like I've been saying that a lot recently, unfortunately, but that's just how it goes.
3, and the circuit is closed. She's ready for shipment.
And it's completely safe?
You security people are all the same. Yes, it's safe.
How necessary is that thermic safety valve, sir?
It could be very necessary, Rainer.
That's why we've misspelt the word gauge on the panel, thermal gauge. Yeah, G-U-A-G-E is not how you spell the word gauge.
Temperature below the critical level, 200 degrees. A failure could result in a nuclear explosion.
An explosion?
Oh, yes.
Oh, mama. Oh, boy.
Be reopened as well.
But there's no chance of anything going wrong? No? Okay, so here's this company who have built a very volatile, very explosive... it's a reactor, isn't it? Yes, that's right. And here's a truck coming to pick it up. And anyway, this all sounds very dangerous, but of course is being treated with sort of casual indifference to the dangers. And we wouldn't really have it any other way in the Super Mario Nation world, would we? We wouldn't have people like taking adequate precautions. That's just foolish.
Ah, the transport has arrived.
Good job you were standing in the loading bay waiting for it. And of course this is the reappearance of the famous Captain Scarlet era truck that we saw in Big Ben Strikes Again.
Reactor mobile, sir.
Yep, they're loading their little nuclear reactor into the truck on a remote control hover. It looks like kind of like a miniature hovercraft thingy. And one strength this episode does have is the music that was composed especially for it. This is a really nice selection of incidental music for this episode.
It's a bad night, driver, and a precious cargo. I hope you drive carefully.
Yes, sir. I got my orders.
And this is where, I try not to mention my Captain Scarlet mashup videos too much, but of course I can't look at this truck driver in quite the same way as I could before I did my little 50th anniversary episode of the series, which somewhere, but yeah, this poor old truck driver thinks he's just going to have a nice quiet night, nice quiet drive to wherever it is he's going, but he doesn't reckon on the plans of this sinister man in black. And again, we're getting another random transmigration of objects scene. He's moved the diversion sign from one side of the road to the other side of the road. So instead of going where he's supposed to go, he's actually going to go where he probably shouldn't. Because I let you in on a little secret. The bridge is out. It's really nice and atmospheric as well, having this storm environment for so much of it.
43 should be coming to the bridge detour now.
And this control room set is quite intricate as well. We've got these...
the new route. He can't miss
what look like real TVs mounted on the wall, like security camera footage of the room that we're in, and there was the Sam Loover puppet talking as well, and a shot of the exterior of the building, which of course is a model. And anyway, our truck driver friend has found there's a bridge out. And there he goes. And that's probably the only lorry crash or vehicle crash at all in Captain Scarlet where the vehicle doesn't explode. But our puppet driver is rather graphically covered in broken glass. Can't see any blood this time, but I'm sure they'll make up for that later. And that's it. The Mysterons have got the... well, it's odd because presumably the Mysterons have hijacked the truck and the truck driver, but they haven't hijacked the reactor, I think. This is an episode where there's a lot of things that aren't clear as to...
Disaster will strike
well, everything, really.
the seaboard of North America. We will deal a heavy blow to the prestige of the world. We will continue to take...
Yeah, we have a very vague threat. The Atlantic seaboard. Heavy blow to the prestige of the world, but nothing specific. So it could be anything, really. Oh, again, love the music in this episode. It's fantastic.
The Atlantic seaboard.
How many car parks within that area, Lieutenant?
Not good, sir. Heavy electrical storm since 12 midnight.
Launch Angels 1, 2, and 3, Lieutenant. Order them to proceed at speed ultimate to area reference points 7.
There it is again, speed ultimate.
SIG.
Maximum washiness.
Angel 1, immediate launch. Angels 2.
And nighttime launches for the Angels as well, which was footage that only appeared in a handful of episodes, really. I think this, Shadow of Fear, and Attack on Cloudbase might be all of them.
Captain Scarlet, report to control immediately.
Could be a couple more. Anyway, our truck driver friend is going very slowly.
Well, truck 43 passed through the first checkpoint safely, Doctor. A couple of minutes late.
We're back in the room with the security cameras. That one of the cameras looks like it's displaying a shot of Craigsville from Thunderbirds Are Go. I'm sure it can't be, but that's really what it looks like.
Ground security reports a core reactor in transit to the new Manicouagan power complex.
The latest Mysteron threat is focused in that area. Who's in charge of the project?
Western Seaboard? Atlantic Seaboard.
He's on the line.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
I know...
Dr. Summers, Colonel White, Spectrum here. We're checking off possible security risks. We understand you're shipping...
We're checking everything in the... I mean, I'm not sure. I probably should have checked before I started this how big, how wide an area the Atlantic seaboard actually is, but...
We're sure it'll be right on...
Spectrum have homed in on this truck as the possible Mysteron, or part of the Mysteron plan very quickly.
We really didn't wish to attract attention to the shipment. That's why there's no conventional escort.
We'll be discreet, Doctor.
We'll keep a Spectrum helicopter flying over it at a height of, 6 feet at all times.
Captain Scarlet, go to grid reference DP8 and pick up an SPV. Take Highway 83. It leads right into the Manicouagan Dam site.
So now Spectrum again have just decided that it's probably related to the Manicouagan Dam.
Shouldn't be too long now before we over...
I'm not sure what they're... I don't see the train of thought with this. And obviously they need to
break my appointment at the final checkpoint, Doctor. But there's been a little change in plan.
They need to find a clue to track down this truck, but even so, it's... And I really don't want to not like this one, because I think this is one written by Shane Rimmer. And we all love Shane Rimmer. But I just wish this could have gone through another rewrite, just to make it a bit more followable. because we're now at the construction site of Expo 2068, where...
If you value your life, don't move. Keep the main flow of helicopters in operation, but program one to fly as I instruct.
Yeah, Fraser from Creator 101 is guiding what look like automated helijets.
Right on time.
And Captain Black's made him fly one out to the truck. But considering it's the title of the episode, I'm not entirely sure what Expo 2068 even is. It sounds like a... Oh!
Relaying instructions from the Mr. Oz.
Okay, so the truck driver is standing by the reactor, but now the word gauge is spelt correctly.
2, 3, and remove the thermal safety valve.
So if this is a Mr. On reconstruction of the reactor and not the original, they've corrected the spelling mistake there, which is very good of them. They may be murderous alien killing machines, but they do like a bit of correct spelling.
Captain Blue, what's your position?
We're just about 5 miles short of Manicougan, Colonel. And we still haven't spotted the truck.
Security has just been through to say the reactor has missed the final checkpoint. It means that somewhere after checkpoint 2, the truck turned off. Go back, Captain, and find that truck.
This is what I kind of love about Spectrum in the original series, is Colonel White gets a hunch, or they decide that the only possible way the Mysterons can achieve the threat that they've set out to do is by this one specific thing, and suddenly all the forces of Spectrum are focused on this one specific object. In this case, it's a truck, to the exclusion of anything else, like, I don't know, power stations or nuclear submarines or anything.
Who's there?
Anyway, here comes Commander Riker, who's a lumberjack.
Friend, you're one witness too many.
But he is not okay. Oh no, lumberjack is down. And bleeding. Oh, poor old lumberjack. I do like the design of these helicopters, though. They're quite a change from the sort of helijets of Thunderbirds.
Look.
A lumberjack. Oh, they found him.
Seneca.
He's passed out. Why was he shot?
Oh, it's lumberjack gang warfare. Nasty stuff.
Captain Scarlet. Fresh tracks, all right. And whatever made them was pretty heavy.
I suspect a dinosaur of some description, Captain. Ah. The valve that prevents the reactor from going all splody.
Some kind of valve.
It seems the transporter was here. It can't be far away.
So now, having switched the reactor to the helijet,
I have located the
the transporter is essentially acting as a decoy at this point.
site.
Captain Scarlet. Destiny Angel has spotted the transport carrying the reactor. She'll key you in on its position. Your orders are to stop that truck at all costs.
SIG, Colonel. The injured man is comfortable.
Good. He'll be picked up in
We put him on a beanbag, left him some sweets, put him in front of a TV.
3-2.
We'll check it out.
Oh, and Scarlet's an under-control puppet in that scene.
Dr. Summers.
Which you'd usually only see in shots of puppets in vehicles, like this shot of Destiny. She's being worked from below.
PV.
There it is.
We've got him.
Thank goodness the only vehicles moving on this entire road for this entire stretch of country in the Atlantic seaboard is just one SPV and one truck. As far as I know, Scarlet and Blue weren't even told what the truck looked like. And here we have...
Spectrum!
Why is the truck driver, who is now slightly spoilery, he's basically acting as a decoy to lure Spectrum away from the fact that he's already swapped the reactor into the helijet, why is he annoyed that he's managed to decoy the people he was trying to decoy? But it's a very nice chase scene. Oh, we're coming up on another hairpin bend. Always hairpin bends on the edges of cliffs in the Gerry Anderson universe. Will it explode? No, not going to explode.
Let's get that truck open and take a look at the reactor.
I think the truck's probably already open. Oh, the truck driver's head is. Yep, blood on his hand and neck there. But in the back of the truck...
Empty. The reactor's been switched. We're back to square one.
Oh, bother. Maybe if we employed more than 2 agents and 1 vehicle, we might get somewhere. I also wonder what happens in cases like this where the Mr. On agent is killed, but the Mr. On vehicle still survives. Do Spectrum store them somewhere, or would they have them destroyed?
It could start to overheat and go critical.
Captain Scarlet, the Manicougan site is now an emergency area. Security has blocked off the entire county. The only things moving in there are a couple of supply helicopters for a construction company building Expo 2068.
Helicopters?
Yes, Captain.
I've heard
The Seneca Company have them under remote control.
Seneca? Colonel, how big a cargo can they carry?
Pretty big. Wait a minute.
Yes, Colonel. I believe one of those helicopters is carrying the reactor, and without that valve it must be overheating.
Right, so... Okay, the reactor is now on the way to the Expo 2068 construction site, but yeah, I still don't know what exactly Expo 2068 is, if it's some sort of... I mean, it sounds like some sort of event or convention, but it just looks like... I don't know.
Bring the helicopter into a hovering...
And if, you know, we know that the series takes place in 2068... Presumably they are leaving it very late if this is some sort of public event. The place is just a pile of building materials.
How much further?
About 4 miles.
Yeah, some cars, I mean, a few pressure domes, probably reused from...
and lock off the gun.
Avalanche. And poor old Fraser is not having a good day. He just wanted to fly his remote control helicopters, now he's got Captain Black barking orders at him. And of course, without the magic valve to keep it from going splodey, the reactor is overheating. It's nearly up to 190.
This is Dr. Summers calling Captain Scarlet. As soon as you gain access to the reactor,
follow my instructions in their exact sequence. I will tell you...
Of course, this puppet playing Dr. Summers is the world president puppet.
Instructions to the letter.
And I do wonder if the world president had appeared in an episode made after this, they would have just gone back to it like nothing happened. Oh, part of the construction site has the...
That it is.
I think it's the container of the Minisat, Phobos Minisat from Shadow of Fear.
Crash that helicopter.
You told me to lock off the controls.
So Captain Black is telling Fraser to do something that he can't really do. And Scarlet's heading over to stop the helicopter. Well, there's only one thing that Captain Black can reasonably do. Murder Fraser in cold blood.
No!
It also looks like... Oh, that is nasty, because the Fraser puppet just slumps forward onto the controls, which starts spitting fire at him. But it looked like Captain Black's gun had must only have been recently repainted, because you could see there was some silver paint on his thumb.
Great.
Anyway, now what's going on is Scarlet has got to get into the crate to get at the reactor to shut it down before it explodes.
Alert Dr. Summers.
SIG.
This involves much drilling and sawing and nailing and sanding. Oh dear, bit of sanding going on. This is bordering on like a home shopping video for a commercial for a Spectrum Power Tools range.
You all set?
Yes. I can give the instructions. I just hope he has time to carry them out.
And of course, Captain Blue is standing there just watching Scarlet do his thing. Oh, the front of the helicopter has like a face. It's like, eyes where are the lights, and it's got like a nose. That's something. Oh, but this is a really good bit of puppetry. Yeah, I love that. The way Scarlet kicks the hole that he's cut away. Now he's in the crate.
Doctor, I'm inside...
Because it really looks like there's...
Shutdown procedure. First...
You can really feel the force behind that kick.
189 degrees and rising.
That reactor will blow at 200 degrees. The coolant supply switch is on emergency A panel. Turn it to maximum.
Yeah, it's not a very thrilling conclusion to a not very thrilling episode with lots of switch flipping and knob twisting And
Rising, now 194 degrees.
And we're creeping up into the red.
The 3 primary circuits. Remove the inspection cover. Mark red circuits 1 to 50.
Red circuits 1.
And again, we don't have any exciting music to make this all these numbers and circuits and whatnot a bit interesting, but we do have Scarlet getting crushed by the reactor.
You all right?
Which is one of those things where it's so... It's kind of those things where it's kind of
yes, I think
ghoulish, but it's also a bit frightening. It's also a bit silly.
19 and 30.
Just the way he just sort of falls against the wall, and Francis Matthews just goes,
What's the thermal reading,
Captain?
Captain?
It's a 196.
196. Quickly, those circuits.
Hurry up. Pull the thing out of the thing. There's one thing out. 2 things out. Ooh.
Scarlet, you're running out of time.
Pulling at small wires has never been so... There's not really much of anything, actually. And he's fallen over again because the helicopter's hit a tower. So nearly into the red. We're at 200.
37.
One more wire to go, and if the helicopter hits this tower, or... Remember, if the reactor explodes, massive nuclear explosion, and the Mysterons have won.
Captain Scarlet.
And to add to the very confusing story, we now have a very confusing ending, because I don't honestly know what happened. I really don't. And this doesn't help.
Colonel White, prepare the sick bay for Captain Scarlet. I'm bringing him in.
So, it's probably the only episode of the series which doesn't end on a note of, well, Captain Scarlet has succeeded yet again, or the Mysterons have beaten us this time. There's nothing to say who won at the end. I think we're meant to believe that Spectrum won because, well, if there had been a nuclear explosion, then probably there would have been widespread devastation and Captain Blue would be dead. But the fact that the helicopter, that the reactor was just at the point of about to blow up when Scarlet pulled out the last cable, and then it blew up when the helicopter crashed into the tower. It's got to have been as close to being a nuclear explosion as makes no difference, surely. But I don't know. I mean, presumably if it wasn't a nuclear explosion, then Expo 2068 will certainly be delayed. Does that count as the blow to the prestige of the world that the Mysterons threatened? I honestly don't know, because I don't know what... Their threat was so vague. The Expo 2068 angle was so vague. I guess Scarlet did it? I don't know. It's one of the vaguest episode endings in Gerry Anderson history, I would say. Not one of my favourites of Captain Scarlet, sadly. Not by a long chalk. Sorry.
Dum 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 dum.
Yeah, isn't that funny? I love it when the randomizer gives us an episode of something that we've kind of been talking about a bit in the previous podcast. It's funny, isn't it? We had Space Precinct last week, and we've just been talking about Captain Scarlet and new Captain Scarlet and Francis Matthews and so on. And what does the randomizer give us?
I know, but it is random,
really
truly,
is.
and we don't listen to it ahead of time, so
that's right.
Bizarre, isn't it? Anyway, thank you, Chris, but I'm still really none the wiser as to what exactly Expo 2068 as an event was.
Right. Maybe it's a Gerry Anderson convention.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
In 48 years' time, we can actually have a Gerry Anderson convention and call it Expo 2068.
Wow. And you can introduce me on my 99th birthday.
That would be amazing. And wheel you out.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Again. Yeah.
See you there, Podsterons.
Tickets on sale now.
That's a serious pre-buy there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Great.
Anyway, thank you very much, Chris. More randomizer next time, and there'll be also more podcasts next time.
Yes, there will.
Won't
Yes,
there?
Probably more of the same. Bit of Gerry Anderson news, maybe some fab facts. You know,
more of the same.
Yeah, that's what people want.
Yeah,
don't they?
Well, allegedly.
Not that we ever asked them.
Don't send in your suggestions for what you really want. Although I tell you what, I was just having a chat with David Tremont before this, who's a future interviewee, and he suggested a new game we could play each week.
Yeah.
So after this is finished recording, I will share details of that game.
Great.
Right. Maybe we can look at bringing it in. Now, last week we suggested a game, didn't we?
Well, we did. We thought we might introduce a word of the week for no apparent reason, just because you used the word thusly twice, and it tickled me a bit. Yes, so we have used a word, well, actually 3 times, I think, for this podcast.
Did you spot it?
Listeners, the word of the week this week was artistry.
Artistry.
That's artistry. There you go. Is this going to become a new thing?
Possibly, maybe not. I mean, I doubt anybody noticed.
No,
but
or cares.
If you did notice or care, do email us podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. Make sure you've left us a rating. That's a review and a rating.
Oh, yeah.
On your podcast platform of choice. And in fact, if you've left us one on your podcast platform of choice, perhaps you'd also do us a favour and go to another podcast platform.
Oh, I like your style.
And leave a rating there. Not necessarily the same one.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if it's a 5-star rating, you should leave a 5-star rating at the other place too. But if you've left your rating on Apple Podcasts, then maybe pop over to Stitcher. Or if you've left it on Podchaser, maybe go over to Overcast.
Yeah.
Or if you've left it on Spotify, then maybe pop along to Podbean or Podbay and do it there. We'd really appreciate it because it really does help. If people see that the podcast is well reviewed and well rated,
yes,
then they might be more likely to listen, and then, you know, it might be more likely to join us and become part of our lovely community of Podsterons from all over the globe.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. That's a really long sentence. Well done.
Please, it was very long, thank you. So
have a rest.
Please do that. Yeah. We do hope you have appreciated the artistry that has gone into this podcast.
Indeed.
And every podcast prior and those in the future. And we will be back with you for Pod 98. Ooh. 98. 98. And that'll be live on the 27th of April, I believe.
Great. And by then, we might actually let you know what we had got planned for the 100th.
What we had planned and what we can't do.
Yes.
Right, okay, yeah, we'll probably do that then.
Yeah.
Anyway, until next week, thank you for listening. This has been the Gerry Anderson Podcast. He's been Richard James.
And he's been Jamie Anderson.
And we'll be the same people again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Artistry.
What was that?
I don't know, just getting... I had a few more I wanted to get out, but I couldn't fit them in, you see.
I see, yes. Yeah.
They're done now.
Yeah. Well, it really was the word of the week, wasn't it? Yeah, it's nice.
We'll have to come up with an even better one next week. Perhaps we need to up the game each week and make it
but it can't be too obvious.
No, I'm not suggesting we go like Mongoose or...
Oh, well, Mongoose isn't too bad. I'm sure we can work Mongoose in.
Okay.
All right.
Not next time, but a few... Because next time it's too obvious.
Yeah, they'll be listening out for it.
Another one in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's get our thinking caps on.
Yeah.
And we'll come up with one for next week, and then Mongoose in the future.
Mongoose in the future. Right, I'm going to write that down. There's my next title.
Coming soon from Richard James Productions. Mongoose in the future.
Starring Milton Finesilver. I'm looking forward to seeing his IMDb entry.
Yeah, can't wait. Goodness me, I think we've gone mad. Yep. Right, time for us both to go. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.